Hey everybody, I'm Kenneth Woods. I'm the news editor for Alliance Roar, and today we are back with another edition of Roaring Readers, the mainstream series where we talk about our favorite books, books we love, and books that we enjoy. And today I'll be talking about a book of poetry that I have called My Heart is Shaped Like a Bed by Justin LaCour. It is a collection of 46 sonnets, and it details New Orleans life, Southern Louisiana life, details youth and young love and unreciprocated pining, especially. Um, Justin LaCour, the author of this book, is from New Orleans. He is from Louisiana. He's put out a few books of poetry during his time as a professional writer, and he is the editor of Trampoline, an online based journal of poetry based mainly in New Orleans. I chose this book for this edition of Roaring Readers because I have a special connection to this book. I both love it as a book, as a collection of poetry. I think every poem in this book is beautifully written, deeply insightful, and very relatable. But I also chose this book because I want to talk about my personal experiences with both this book and Justin LaCour, and how them together made me fall in love with poetry and writing, and begin writing my own poetry and change my trajectory as a writer. So first, about the book. Um, it each poem, like I said, is about like young love, pining, the warden's life. It's also references like bands from the 80s and 90s a lot, because that's when Justin LaCour had grew up. And you can see, which I think is a really cute addition to the poems. For a few of them, they'll have little markers detailing which poems that they're referencing. So like for this one, uh, this is like seven at the top, and it's referencing the new Basement Tapes, and their song "Heidi Heidi Ho" number 11 from Lost River. I've never heard of that song, but this man loves it apparently. All the poems have little references like that. You can tell that this book was made with a lot of intention, with a lot of care, with a lot of love, and I really, really, really appreciate that. I think that's a really great addition to the book. Um, each one of these poems just really speak to me on a personal level. Um, I used to think that like my only prior experience to poetry was really in high school, and everyone has the same kind of experience whenever you're in high school and you're reading Shakespearean poetry and you have no idea what's going on, no idea what he's trying to say, no idea what even the message is. And for me, that kind of painted my whole outlook on poetry in general. And because of that, I wasn't really a fan of poetry at all, honestly, up until reading this. But because of this book specifically, it has changed my entire view on poetry, on the genre as a whole. I see now that poetry isn't just one specific thing. It doesn't have to be one thing. It doesn't have to sound one way. I used to think that it had to have this specific sound, this specific flowery, um, very um, eloquently written to the point where you don't even understand what's going on, type of sound and type of voice. Now I see that poetry can be about everyday life. It can be about my experiences. It can be about me growing up in Louisiana. It can be about any part of my life, any part of my upbringing. It doesn't have to be one specific thing. It doesn't have to sound one specific way. And I deeply appreciate LaCour and this book of poetry for kind of opening my eyes to that, in a sense, which makes me love this book even more. Uh, and going further with that, when it comes to my personal experience with this book and with Justin LaCour, I actually got to meet LaCour at the Louisiana Book Festival in late October last year, in 2023. And I went to the Louisiana Book Festival, which is in the state capital, Baton Rouge, and I was taking pictures for the Lions Roar, and I was also there for my teacher, who is the Louisiana State Poet Laureate, Miss Allison Pellegrin. and she was hosting a panel of local authors, of local poets, and they all got to read, poems from their various books. And Justin was there, and he read from "My Heart Is Shaped Like a Bed." And sitting there taking the photos, I basically stopped throughout. I stopped taking photos because I was so enthralled by his poetry, by the poems that I heard, the poems that he decided to read from this book. I was like, wow, like I didn't realize poetry can be this way. Like I understood what was going on, and I really valued that. You could tell like there's a like he truly felt every single word that he wrote down into this book. There is intention, there is love, there is even a bit of regret, a bit of sadness, and you can feel it all throughout each word in this poem, in this collection of poems. And when I got to hear him read it, I was deeply enthralled, and I loved it. And I knew that once it ended, I had to go talk to him. So I did go talk to him. We had a nice little conversation, and I told him how much I enjoyed the poems that he read, and how much I valued that they were so relatable and down to earth. They weren't this this thing that you couldn't grasp unless you delve into it for days and days on end. Like you could understand where he was coming from, what he was going through, and how he had felt. I loved that, and I loved it so much that before I left with my girlfriend Rosie, they were selling books from local authors and books in general in a tent. And as I was getting pictures, I saw that this book was on sale for $14. I picked it up, and he was there at the tent, and I got my book signed. As you can see, right here, I got it signed by Justin. It says, "To Kenneth, good luck with all your writing. It was great meeting you," from Justin on October 28th, 2023. That was a really special moment for me. A very, very special moment to just talk to another writer, someone who is a professional, who has experience, putting their work out there. I thought that was so cool, especially someone who was from Louisiana. Like, it doesn't matter where you come from. You could, if you make the decision to put yourself out there artistically, you can make a name for yourself, and you can, cultivate a fan base of people who love and adore your work. And I am certainly a part of the Justin LaCour fan base after reading this book of poetry. And it opened my eyes to poetry. Like I said, I began to develop a kind of obsession with poetry after this. I was in a creative writing class with Miss Pellegrini. We were about to discuss poetry. So it was like perfect timing. So I just started writing some poetry, and then I really began to just fall in love with the genre. I began writing my own poetry, both within class and out of class, just for myself. And while, of course, I'm not at the level of Justin LaCour or, the state poet laureate, my teacher, I've really grown to become better at writing poetry. I've grown to have an appreciation of both the aesthetics of poetry and the techniques behind it. I've watched plenty of videos talking about the technique, talking about other people's poetry. I read up on techniques on poetry, and I've implemented those techniques into my work. And I believe that my work has gotten better over these last, 4 or 5 months that I've been writing it. Of course, I still have room to grow, but just being where I am now, I would not be where I am. I would not be the writer that I am in general, or the poetry lover that I am in general, without Justin LaCour and without My Heart Is Shaped Like a Bed. I've even had some of my poems accepted and or published in various literary magazines. I wouldn't have had those opportunities. I wouldn't have had those accomplishments without ever meeting Justin LaCour, without ever reading My Heart Is Shaped Like a Bed. So it's probably a long shot, but if you're out there listening to this, Justin, I just want to tell you thank you. You've had a big impact on my life as a writer and as someone who appreciates art and poetry. You have grown my appreciation for poetry immensely. I want to say thank you, And I hope that you're doing well. And I hope that I can talk to you once again at some time. Thank you. Thank you so much from the bottom of my heart. Now, I spent, this entire time talking about how much I love this poetry. So I'm going to let our viewers and our dear listeners decide for themselves. What do you think about Justin LaCour's poetry? I've picked out 3 out of the 46 to read, and I'm going to add a little tidbit as to why I picked these specific 3, and I'll let you decide for yourself. But fair warning, I'm going to push you and tell you that you should definitely buy this book because it is amazing. But to begin, we're going to start with Sonnet Night, like apostrophe night, so like good night, on page 20. Put my reader voice on. You say we're old now, with children and crow's feet, but I say your face deserves a saga written with perfume and fire, a saga of stars raining down on the tin roofs of work and TV and bed. Sometimes I think of you, I forget to speak or blink. I start to believe time is shaped like a bowl, gently sliding us back to where we started. May you sleep tonight on a pillow the size of a whale while dogs fight in the street. Norteño accordion riffs waft mysteriously from a passing truck, and clouds of moths fly by with eyes on their wings. Now this first one I love due to like the kind of murkiness of it all. It's set during night. 2, the specific line, I start to believe time is shaped like a bowl, gently sliding us back to where we started. I have not gotten that out of my head since the day that I read it, back in October or early December or early November. I mean, that is it's so simple, but it evokes such a powerful, beautiful image in your mind. Like, I just feel like we're just in a bowl and it's just sliding us back together, right back where we started. Who wouldn't? That pulls at my heartstrings like almost nothing else. And I think that would pull on anyone's heartstrings, truly. It is that beautiful of a line. And thirdly, it talks about some of the themes that I said that appear throughout this book of poetry. This kind of idea on aging and looking back, having regrets and pining after the youth and the young love that you at one point in time experience. You say we're old now with children and crow's feet, but I say that your face deserves a saga written with perfume and fire. I still think you are beautiful, even as you look back to what you used to be, what we used to be. Beautiful, beautiful. The next one I want to read is on page 37. It's called Sonnet, You Belong Among the Wildflowers. You wrote to say you were up, drowning anxiety with bacon and podcast. I empathized, for I know the pain of drowning anxiety with cold showers and free jazz, but was elated to just get a message from you. You who are the very legs and spine of summer. I miss holding you on that beach where men gambled over fighting kites. Money slipped in and out of hands while some kid with a rope bracelet strummed guitar. I don't think we'll ever make it back there, but I'd like to treat you to a picnic and bourbon spree, lie in the grass with you, bracing for a day that comes with only the usual humiliations. This poem I really enjoyed because, again, the pining is just dripping from the page. I want you back into my life. No matter who you are, no matter what age you are, you can relate to having that feeling of missing someone and wanting them back in your life, Even if just for a day, let's lie in the grass, and just having that feeling of someone that's been on your mind, that you've been thinking about for a long time, and just getting a message from them, like LaCour says, is very elating. It makes you feel genuinely, truly very happy. I love this one very, very, very deeply. Also, it's just very beautiful, kind of just painting, painting an image. This very specific moment where we're on the beach while humans of all sizes, shapes are off doing, all these other random things, and yet at this very moment, the only thing that exists is you and I. I love that. The last poem I'm gonna read is from page 12. Sonnet, additional sonnet about the same thing. That's the title. You live far enough away that I'm tempted to write with enormous letters. How enormous? Somewhere between the Hollywood sign and those 2 foot letters next door spelling, Lordy Lordy, Kenny is 40. But what to say? We barely breathe in the same time zone. Yet I think of your face and it's as bracing as scotch with 3 ice cubes, as real as a rising sun, before you disappear suddenly, like when the lights come on at the end of 80s night, scattering the past, sending me back to the real night in my room with a paint by numbers sailboat and my heart shaped like a bed. How personable is this? And even though he specifically says something like "Lordy, Lordy, Kenny is 40," we may not know who Kenny is or how Kenny is doing in his life, but we have all been there. We have all seen our neighbors put out those huge signs, and it gives the reader an image in their head of just how big Justin's love is for this person that they haven't seen in a long time, who lives so far away that they want to send them a message with these towering, enormous letters. And of course, at the end, in my heart shaped like a bed, like such a simple but beautiful line that is worthy to grace the title of this book. Those are just a few of the many, many poems within this collection of poetry that I deemed beautiful, incredible, amazing, and worthy of reading over and over and over again, like I have. I've read many of these poems over and over and over again since I first got them. It's just amazing. I love them very deeply. Uh, I would highly recommend that you pick up My Heart is Shaped Like a Bed. It is from Fjords, fjordsreview.com. So if you type in fjordsreview.com, FJORDS review.com, you could probably find it on there. I highly recommend. When I bought it from the Louisiana Book Festival, it was about $14. I'm sure if you look up on there, it'll be about the same price range. It is more than worth it. More than worth it. I would recommend this book to anyone, regardless of their age or background, because we can all relate to the experiences that Justin notates out throughout each of these poems. We've all felt the sense of pining, the sense of regret, the sense of sadness, and the sense of missing someone who isn't in their life anymore, and the sense of reminiscing over what was and thinking about what could be. Especially for all my Louisianians out there, this is a must read. We should definitely support local writers, and we especially should support those as great as Justin LaCour. You pick up this book and you read it, you won't regret it. I can guarantee you that. And that's all from me. Thank you all again for tuning in to another edition of Roaring Readers on the Manestream podcast. I'm Kenneth Woods, and I hope you all have a wonderful day. Y'all take care.